Hi, I'm Norm Glickman, and I'm here at the Edward J. Blaustein School at Rutgers University with my friend and colleague, Roland Anglin. I've known Roland for about 20 years, followed his work as both as a philanthropist and as a scholar. And he's written a new book called Promoting Sustainable Local and Community Economic Development. Very interesting book. There are a lot of things I want to ask, but let's get right down to business. Roland, what's this book about, and why did you write it?
Well, Norm, first of all, thanks for agreeing to sit down with me. I can't think of anybody else that I'd rather talk about these issues with, given your own experience with community economic development. The book is about community economic development. It's a field that's now over 40 years old. It began as a part of the Great Society period, in which local people were encouraged to take control of their economic circumstance. It started with locally controlled economic development institutions, commonly called CDCs, but it's grown tremendously. It's grown to a field that's populated by intermediaries, such as the Local Initiative Support Corporation, enterprise partners, CDFIs. And
it's the 30th birthday of LISC this week, I think. Or
that's correct.
Right now, yeah.
But it's also a testament to the permanence of the field, as you just said with the 30th anniversary, that this nation has created such a field of endeavor that is addressing blight and poverty.
You know, let me ask you a sort of follow-up question on that. I know what kind of pain it takes to write a book. Mm-hmm. How much, spending 2 years or so writing a book. What was your passion for this? Maybe I shouldn't even need to ask that question.
No, it's a good question. Yeah. For the past 4 or 5 years, I've been feeling unsettled that the field that I care about, a lot of practitioners care about, a lot of academics care about, was being given short shrift, that it was being misunderstood. People were saying it's only about one appendage, community development corporations, and I had a different view. It's much larger, much more encompassing of other institutions that are doing great work. Sometimes it's dispiriting work, sometimes it's done in fits and starts, but I travel the length and breadth of this country. And I see what these organizations and the field in general, it's making a difference. So I said, there's nothing that satisfies me in the literature. I wanted to contribute to the literature that paints a broad but specific picture of what's happening, and also to show that although the field is now 40 years old, it's still innovating, it's still changing, and it's accommodating new challenges such as globalization and the question of whether we can have place-based development. So with that, I said, I just need to sit down and put this on paper.
Well, that's great. What I want to sort of press you on is this notion of innovation.
Yeah.
That's a term that's used a lot. How do you use the term innovation in this field? Why is it important? Give me some examples of how this is going on.
Well, this is where the book becomes nuanced, because I define innovation in the context of the public sector and what it is doing to knit together these various sectors. So it's really about public policy innovation at base. I'm saying that the field itself is an innovation. Before 1966, you didn't have communities in charge of or with a voice in development. You know this, the whole story of how many neighborhoods in St. Louis, New York, were run over by the federal bulldozer. Because of those things, a new way of looking at how people's voice can shape development patterns emerged. And that was an innovation. But it doesn't stop there, because if that were the case, then it would just be a one-off. But now we have these institutions that are part of community economic development really doing some interesting things. Things that really try and cope with the challenges to people development, to place development, to globalization. I just think that we need to reinterpret, think again about what innovation means. It doesn't mean the new thing. It means how a thing can be networked and improved on, but it's got a base to work from.
Seems to me at the end, we're looking at outcomes.
Yes.
What actually takes place on the ground in North Carolina, New York, LA, wherever. What kinds of outcomes result from these innovations? What are some examples of good things that are going on?
Sure. Well, you know, in writing the book, I went to visit some old friends, practitioners and institutions that I think are doing good work. The North Carolina Community Development Initiative, for example, I think you know them, good people. And they are starting to work with the environmentalists in their state. They actually got the state government to issue a bond that would not only preserve land, but also figure out how community development is part of preserving the environment. And one of the things that emerged from that, and a very good experiment, is they're taking, along with one of their local partners, CDC partners, they're taking steel from crushed automobiles, melting it down, molding it into steel frames for affordable housing. All of the fixtures in these houses are green, LEED certified. And it's better, it stands up better to weather. It doesn't, insects are not an issue. And it's a really innovative way to continue the evident need to provide affordable housing with a recognition that we have to husband our resources and reuse them. It's about how people feel about the place. And if it looks good, it's aesthetically pleasing, you start to get the glimmers of revitalization. There are other things that need to be there too, but that's an important thing. And the last thing I'll mention about the New York example is they're working with local stores in these neighborhoods to provide healthy milk, healthy products for local residents in poor communities. Now, you can ask, what does that have to do with community economic development? I think it has to do with community economic development centrally. Because if you take out the focus on affordable housing, what else do you have? You have a human being, and you're only addressing one part of their needs. You have to address the totality of the human being.
I think that's really interesting, because when people often think about community development, they think about bricks and sticks.
Yeah.
Putting up a house there, and trying to house people. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the examples you're giving me, the example in North Carolina and of course in New York as well, is the broad range of things that are going on, and that's an important part of what you've written here.
Yeah.
Okay, what does this all add up to? We've got these innovations, we've got different people doing different things. What do we got to show for all this?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have as much to show as we should. One, because we don't rigorously analyze and document what's there. So I say we keep reinventing what's already there.
Yeah.
I think we need to start networking these very important projects and institutions so that they can do their work in partnership. And I know it sounds a little glib, but it's being done in many places. But we need to figure out how to get the local weed and seed organization, which is a Department of Justice program that helps young people avoid crime. Network that with the CDC that's doing affordable housing and say, what can we do together to make this neighborhood more habitable? What can we do to make the people a much better group so that they can step up on the path of upward mobility?
That's right, and using groups like Youth Build.
Absolutely.
To do cleaning up houses and building, besides building new houses, cleaning up existing houses, getting rid of the lead and things like that in so many inner city houses.
I'm glad you mentioned Youth Build, because it's a program that I highlight extensively in the book. Youth Build is a national program. It started in New York in 1977. it's a great idea, but it's a simple idea. It says you've got young people standing on a corner, you've got homeless people, and you've got these abandoned buildings.
Right.
Why don't you just get them all together and figure out how to teach the young people how to build houses? And in the process, they learn very marketable skills, carpentry skills, but they learn the soft skills that we always talk about. And the Youth Build program is extremely rigorous. I mean, they take kids that are tough, and they put them through a training sometimes called mental toughness, where they kind of break them down and say, you know, who are you as a human being? We need to help you think differently about your circumstance. And it's a program that's evidence-based. You can go and get information and data about its success. And my sense is it's looked at as youth development. I want to claim that for community economic development, because if you look at it, you know, one of the most glaring things about the challenge of trying to reclaim a neighborhood is the young people. If we don't address their needs, you're not going to get the people who, with middle incomes, coming to a community, spending their money and investing.
And I think, just to follow up a little bit, I mean, a big part of Youth Build is literacy.
Absolutely.
You've got to learn to read and write and do math and do things like that. And that's another advantage of another example of things that are going on in that way. Let's do one last thing. Who's your audience for this book? Who ought to buy it?
The audience, the principal audience, I think, are economic development practitioners and community economic development practitioners. I'm saying to the economic development practitioners, look, I understand your standard operating procedure. That is, you want to attract more business to a community or a city. And I'm not here to fight that. But I want to make the case that it's not just business attraction. It's really about helping the core become better. Because if you lessen the needs of high needs people, then you can use resources to invest otherwise. And in some respects, it's an opportunity cost. And I want to show them how, with not a whole lot of investment, but true networking and true thought, we can do something different that links local development to community economic development. On the other side, I really wanted to value the community economic development practitioners. They do tough work.
Sure do.
And quite frankly, I don't think we've had a piece that really shows in rigorous and somewhat objective detail what they do and what the system is about. I tried to be honest and objective. I will not say that I was totally objective, but I think it's a balanced piece that says, here's some good things that are emerging and that you're doing, but there's some real challenges that we ought not to ignore. And I offer some, not solutions, but directions. For example, the capacity challenge. You know, we talk of a leadership gap in the community economic development field. I think we need to be more proactive and thoughtful about how to train leaders in the field, but that can be done. We're an institution that trains leaders for municipal planning agencies, for government, for even private consulting firms. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to have a clear pedagogy for helping to train future leaders in the field. And I offer some other solutions at a broader macro level.
Well, I think it's going to be a successful venture for you. And I'd like to hear more about it. Maybe go out and talk to people about the book and other people who buy the book. So thank you very much.
Norm, thank you for sitting down with me. These are very important issues.